A lot of directors have experimented with digital cameras ever since they went on the market in the 90s, but it was Michael Mann who brought the digital image to American audiences. Many were unprepared for it. Until recently, the difference between film and digital was like night and day. Only a few filmmakers knew what to do with the format.
Play a game, Mr. President. It's called Spin the Dial.
Public Enemies, his fourth film to make use of digital photography, was such a shock to the system of critic and moviegoer alike that only a handful knew what to do with it. It barely made its money back in the US. The film's photography still has its detractors today. It faded from the public consciousness almost immediately, and Black Hat, which opens this month, is the first film that Michael Mann has made since. It may not be that Mann couldn't return from the shrug that greeted Public Enemies until this moment. More likely that the world had to catch up to Mann's vision of a productive future for digital cinema.
Woo! Okay then.
Even 5 years later, it feels like no one will ever one-up Mann's grammatical understanding of digital filmmaking. With Public Enemies, Mann opened up a whole world of possibilities for the future of filmmaking. So why don't we talk about it more? Immediacy is the key to Public Enemies. After its release, the critic Daniel Kasman said of the film, "In Public Enemies you see the bullets hit dirt, break windows, pound flesh, and pulverize trees. A popular hero is nothing but flesh and movement." Dante Spinotti's cinematography renders a fictionalized past in terms everyone was only beginning to become familiar with. It looked a lot like our home movies, our cell phone pictures. It looked uncomfortably close to us. Raw, unprofessional, and real. It was Mann's way of engaging with a mythic past. He brought the 1930s to audiences in 2009 and beyond to make them understand the imagistic reality and the feel of a history we can never fully comprehend. John Dillinger interacts with his own image all throughout Public Enemies, the way that Mann and Spinotti interact with the past as told in old celluloid and photographs. This isn't a movie with characters, just names and faces, and we're inches from them at all times. As Kasman notes, the heroes of the film, gangsters and G-men, larger than life in our cultural memory, become human beings, just flesh and blood captured for our study. Dillinger became all too aware of his face adorning wanted posters and newsreels, making him the perfect icon to resurrect in a time of reality TV and social media overexposure. In hindsight, it makes perfect sense that Public Enemies was the start of digital images becoming the dominant mode of expression in motion pictures. It's about us, and our relationship to images, as much as it's about John Dillinger robbing banks. Mann basically wrote the book on American action choreography, so naturally the chases and shootouts are incredibly assured. The camera is arguably more important than any single performance in the film. It sticks as close to the actors as possible to give their movements and tics a raw expressiveness formerly caught between the beautiful gloss of celluloid and the human eye. Public Enemies erases that barrier. It uses the awkwardness of a digital camera scanning a face for meaning in a new environment to its advantage. Those beautiful, hauntingly vacant tableaux crash into each other, creating an entirely new sensation for spectators. Bullets chip away at surfaces for what feels like the first time. In quieter moments, Mann and Spinotti zero in on Johnny Depp's pores, which means looking directly into the scarred face of infamy, movie stardom. It turns legend into fact. But the mere fact of seeing the very real and very human face of Depp turns an actor into a person, and his elemental performance, million-dollar smile and feline eyes, back into a legend. Public Enemies is not only one of the most concise action films of the last decade, but also an incredibly knowing look at the American dream. America's perception of Dillinger fluctuates wildly depending on what kind of audience he finds himself before. The American public subsists on the fantasy that they might be rich tomorrow, so they prize the outlaw's backbone and can-do spirit. But he's destabilizing the economy, so he must also be a low-life criminal. Deciding which part of Dillinger to respond to is the duality of the American dream in a nutshell.
Johnny, how long does it take you to go through a bank?
Oh, about 1 minute, 40 seconds. Flat.
And man has a blast toying with our sympathies. A hero is just a man, and if he can be foiled, then what hope do the rest of us have? We are all but flesh, as Casman says, and indeed life and death have never looked so real and unreal at once. This is how we lived. This is how we died. It has always been so.